He survived the battlefield, but the moment he walked into the hospital room, saw his daughter lying silent on the bed, and realized the real war had been fought at home, his heart broke in ways no weapon ever could. Subscribe to Black Inside 2.0 for stories that touch the soul. The war that followed him home. Sergeant Daniel Karen had imagined many things during the long nights overseas. He imagined walking through his front door, his daughter running toward him with open arms, her laughter filling the house like sunlight after rain. He imagined his wife standing behind her, smiling, proud, relieved. But the war had lied to him. Instead of home, he stood in a hospital corridor that smelled of antiseptic and fear. Instead of laughter, there was silence, heavy and unforgiving. And instead of arms wrapped around his neck, there was a small, motionless body lying beneath white sheets. His daughter, Lily, Daniel's uniform was still dusty from the journey. He hadn't even gone home. The call came while he was still in transit. "Your daughter has been admitted," the voice said gently. That was all. Now he stood beside her bed, his large, trembling hand resting on her tiny head. A white bandage wrapped around her forehead. Machines hummed softly, doing the breathing she struggled to do herself. Daniel had faced enemy fire without flinching, but now, tears rolled freely down his face. "I'm here, baby," he whispered. "Daddy's home." A father's guilt. Lily was only 6 years old. 6 years old, and already learning what pain felt like. Daniel remembered the last video call before deployment ended. Lily had been quieter than usual. He thought she was just tired. "Daddy, when are you coming home?" she had asked. "Soon," he promised. "I'm almost done, almost done." Too late. As he sat by her bedside, guilt pressed down on his chest like armor he couldn't remove. He had protected strangers in foreign lands, but failed to protect his own child. A nurse entered quietly. "She's stable," she said softly. "She'll wake up soon." Daniel nodded, unable to speak. "When she does," the nurse added, "she'll need her father." He was already there, and he would never leave again. The truth he never expected. Later that evening, Daniel found his wife, Megan, sitting alone in the waiting area. Her eyes were red, but not from crying, more from exhaustion and something else he couldn't name. "What happened?" Daniel asked, his voice calm but hollow. Megan hesitated. "Too long. She fell," she said. "It was an accident." Daniel stared at her. Years of military training had sharpened his instincts. This wasn't truth, it was fear wearing makeup. "Tell me again," he said quietly. Megan broke. Tears spilled as words rushed out, confessions tangled with regret. During Daniel's absence, loneliness had crept in. Someone else had entered their lives. Someone who was never meant to be near a child. Choices were made, boundaries ignored, warnings dismissed, and Lily paid the price. Daniel didn't raise his voice, didn't clench his fists, didn't move at all. Something inside him simply cracked. A child's voice. When Lily finally woke up, her eyes fluttered open slowly. Confusion crossed her small face, until she saw him. "Daddy," she whispered. Daniel leaned forward instantly. "I'm here. I'm right here." Her tiny fingers curled around his. "Weak, but real. I tried to be brave," she said softly. That sentence broke him. "You were brave," he said, choking back tears. "You were so brave." Lily looked away for a moment, then back at him. I missed you more than you'll ever know," Daniel replied. In that moment, he made a vow. Not spoken aloud, but carved into his soul. No war, no distance, no mistake, would ever take him away from her again. The cost of silence. Megan stood in the doorway, watching them. Shame weighed on her like chains. Daniel didn't look at her. Some wounds didn't need arguments. They needed distance. Days passed. Lily grew stronger. She smiled again. Small smiles, cautious ones, but they were enough. Daniel slept in a chair beside her bed every night. He learned the rhythm of the machines. He learned patience. He learned forgiveness, not for others, but for himself. One night, Lily asked, "Daddy, are you leaving again?" He shook his head immediately. "No, baby, I'm staying, I promise." She smiled and drifted back to sleep. For the first time in years, Daniel slept peacefully too. A new beginning. When Lily was finally discharged, Daniel took her somewhere unexpected, not home. They went to the ocean. She sat wrapped in a blanket, watching the waves crash gently against the shore. "Daddy," she said, "it's loud, but nice." Daniel smiled. That's life sometimes. He had requested an honorable discharge. No more deployments, no more excuses. His mission had changed. It was no longer about surviving war. It was about healing love. The strongest soldier. Months later, Lily ran across the playground, laughter ringing freely again. Daniel watched from a bench, coffee in hand, heart finally light. People often thanked him for his service. They didn't know the truth. The strongest thing he ever did wasn't on a battlefield. It was choosing to come home, choosing to stay, and choosing to love louder than pain. When the house felt empty, the house Daniel brought Lily back to didn't feel like home anymore. It was too quiet. Every room carried memories, echoes of laughter, bedtime stories, family dinners that never happened. Lily sat on the couch, hugging her favorite stuffed rabbit, looking around like a guest in her own life. Daniel watched her closely. She smiled, but it was different now. Softer, careful. "Daddy," she asked one evening, "are you mad at Mommy?" Daniel paused. 1,000 answers rushed through his mind, but only one was right. "I'm not mad at you," he said gently, "and none of this is your fault." She nodded, but children always feel more than they say. That night, Daniel sat alone in the dark living room, realizing something painful. Coming home wasn't the end of the war. It was the beginning of healing. The letter he never sent. Daniel found an old notebook in his duffel bag. He had carried it through every deployment, filling it with thoughts he never shared. That night, he wrote again. "I fought for strangers and called it duty. I left my family and called it sacrifice. But I see now, love doesn't wait. It needs presence." He closed the notebook, unsure who the words were for. Maybe Lily, maybe himself. A mother's regret. Megan watched from a distance. She saw how Daniel helped Lily brush her hair every morning, how he learned to cook her favorite meals, how he sat beside her bed until she fell asleep, every single night. Megan tried to speak, to explain, to apologize, but guilt stole her voice. One afternoon, she finally broke. "I failed her," she whispered. Daniel didn't argue. "Yes," he said quietly, "but what matters now is what we do next." Tears streamed down Megan's face. "I want to be better," she said. Daniel looked at Lily playing on the floor, her laughter hesitant but real. "Then prove it, with time, not words." A child's fear. One night, Lily woke up screaming. Daniel rushed in instantly, kneeling beside her bed. "It's okay, baby. Daddy's here." She clung to him, shaking. "I dreamed you left again," she sobbed. Daniel held her tighter than ever. "I'm not going anywhere," he promised. No matter what. From that night on, he left the bedroom door open. Always. Because safety isn't locks or walls. It's knowing someone will come when you call. The small victories, healing, didn't arrive all at once. It came in small victories. Lily laughed a little louder each week. She stopped flinching at sudden noises. She started drawing pictures again, first of flowers, then houses, then 3 stick figures holding hands. Daniel taped every drawing on the refrigerator like medals of honor. Each one meant she was coming back to herself. And so was he. A father's new mission. Daniel turned down job offers that required travel. He took a quieter role, one that kept him close. Some called it wasted potential. He called it purpose. Every school pickup, every bedtime story, every scraped knee, these were the battles that mattered. The question that changed the room. One evening, Lily looked up at Daniel and asked softly, "Daddy, are families forever?" Daniel swallowed. "Families are built," he said carefully. "And when people work hard, they can be very strong." She nodded thoughtfully. "I want ours to be strong," she said. Daniel kissed her forehead. "So do I." The day she ran without fear. The first time Lily ran again, Daniel didn't realize he was holding his breath. It happened at the park. She let go of his hand and took off toward the swings, her laughter bursting out, loud, free, unafraid. Daniel stood frozen, eyes filling with tears as he watched her fly forward like she had never been hurt at all. That was the moment he knew. She was healing, and so was he. A conversation long overdue. One quiet evening, after Lily had fallen asleep, Megan sat across from Daniel at the kitchen table. "No tears this time, just honesty. I can't undo what happened," she said. "But I want to spend my life making sure she never feels alone again." Daniel looked at the family photos on the wall, some cracked, some new. "I won't forget," he said calmly. "But for Lily's sake, I'm willing to rebuild, carefully." It wasn't forgiveness, it was responsibility, and sometimes, that mattered more. The father Lily needed. Daniel became the father Lily didn't just love, but trusted. He attended every school event. He learned how to braid hair, pack lunches shaped like hearts, and sit through animated movies without checking his phone. When Lily stood on stage at her school program and scanned the crowd nervously, her eyes found him instantly. He raised his hand and smiled. She smiled back, stronger this time. The letter he finally gave her. On Lily's 7th birthday, Daniel handed her a small envelope. "What's this?" she asked. "A promise," he said. Inside was a simple letter, written carefully. "I promise to always come when you call. I promise to listen. I promise to protect your heart. No matter what." Lily hugged the letter to her chest. "You already do," she said. Daniel had never received a medal that felt heavier or more earned. The war that truly ended. One afternoon, Daniel visited the military base one last time to complete his final paperwork. As he walked away, he didn't feel loss. He felt peace. The war had taught him how to survive. His daughter taught him how to live. Years later, time moved forward. Lily grew taller, stronger, braver. One day, as she tied her shoes before school, she looked up and asked, "Daddy, why do you always stay?" Daniel smiled softly. "Because coming home was the best decision I ever made." She hugged him tightly, and in that embrace, every broken moment finally made sense. Some battles are fought overseas, but the most important ones are won at home. A father's love can heal what war never could. Subscribe to Black Inside 2.0 for emotional stories that stay in your heart.